Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to give it just another minute to let a few more attendees trickle in, then we'll get started.
So where are we representing from today? I'm north suburbs of Chicago. And Brendan, you're outside Boston?
Yep, outside Boston. We've got a beautiful 70-degree day here, adding to the strange week that this is.
Yeah, same. Your window looks about as nice as mine. And Carrie, representing from North Carolina.
Yep, similar weather down here. It's about like 73 outside, so kind of a perfect day in North Carolina.
So what are we doing? Why are we having this webinar?
Okay to be inside.
Can we get it started?
I think so.
Okay, well, hello and welcome to our webinar today, Improving Business Performance Through Energy Efficiency. We're proud to host this webinar with Shell Energy North America. Shell Energy offers energy solutions with the scale and reliability your business needs. My name is Carrie Booth and I'm the Solutions Engineer at Gobi and the moderator of today's webinar. During our webinar today, we will learn how reducing energy and operational costs, upgrading aging energy systems, and achieving sustainability goals can be more cost-effective than one might think. We will review plans for impactful changes that will substantially improve your ESG performance and provide a considerable return on investment. We will also talk about unlocking operational savings, alleviating energy requirements, accelerating sustainable and responsible growth with robust ROI. All of this through energy efficiency improvements and sustainable business practices. We'll be providing a step-by-step overview with strategies and best practices for your organization to implement on the road to reducing your energy footprint and capitalizing on the ensuing savings. Today's session will run about 30 minutes in length, and we've left some time at the end for questions. The webinar will also be recorded and sent to all participants. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers for today's webinar. Brendan Endicott, Business Development from Shell Energy, has more than 15 years of experience in clean tech, focusing on cost reduction and revenue generating opportunities for commercial and industrial customers. He uses a consultative approach to understand customers' energy goals and help them implement the most cost-effective solutions. At Shell, Brendan is responsible for sales, delivery, and customer success of the Shell Energy Inside program. Prior to joining Shell, he led development of large-scale energy storage projects at NEC Energy Solutions and held multiple leadership positions at Enernoc. Healy Lev has more than 15 years of experience in commercial real estate globally with customers such as Motorola, Bank of America, Cisco, MasterCard, HSBC, Fidelity, McDonald's, as well as several real estate private equity funds and REITs. In 2012, Healy joined Gobi, overseeing strategic account management, new business, and industry alliances. In 2015, she participated in raising $5 million of venture capital funding for Gobi. As Chief Revenue Officer, she leads the commercial SaaS business, sales team, consulting business, and HR. Healy earned her bachelor's degree in architecture at University of Illinois and her MBA in international business management strategy and entrepreneurship from Northwestern University Kellogg School of Management. The last thing I'll mention before we get started is please feel free to submit any questions throughout the webinar on the bottom right corner, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. Thanks so much for joining us, and we're excited to have you. Healy, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. So we've all agreed that the weather is nice in North Carolina, outside of Boston and outside of Chicago. So hopefully wherever you guys are tuning in from, also having a nice day. And we'll take this hour to distract your mind from counting up red states and blue states and pondering the future of our country and the world. We'll talk about something else. Brendan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Yuri.
Good. We're excited to have you. So, as mentioned by Carrie, Shell has a specific group that Brendan's going to talk about today within called Shell New Energies that's above and beyond how we all kind of know Shell conventionally. And we have had the privilege at Gobi of working side by side with Shell now for about 2 years, with our business models really complementing one another. So when we talk about commercial real estate in the built environment, there are a handful of tactical measures to be taken at the properties themselves to make them more energy efficient, and to decide where the capital expenditures should be made in order to both drive NOI, reduce operating costs, reduce energy usage, and then also on the Gobi side of things, if you are doing third-party reporting, whether voluntary or involuntary, decisions that you make and projects that you do, and tactical efforts at the assets themselves can impact, your score, can impact the way that investors or shareholders perceive you, can impact employee retention, and a bunch of other facets within your business. So the intersection of how we work together, and as mentioned, Brendan's going to get in depth today into some of these tactical efforts and energy efficiency projects that are done at the asset level, but you also need to be able to track and communicate them. And we oftentimes at Gobi talk to people, they have large portfolios, and there are some, I'll use Dan Winter's term of random acts of sustainability or random acts of energy efficiency. Some good property managers, asset managers might be doing the right things at the properties, but they're not always doing a great job tracking them and communicating them and quantifying the savings and calculating an ROI and reporting on these efficiency measures at a portfolio level. So that's the intersection, right? So you want to do all the right things, and you want to be smart about where you invest your capital and which are the projects that drive the ROI that you're looking for. But then you also want to be able to quantify and communicate and talk about the things that you're doing and why. And that's where Gobi comes in. So, and one other thing I will say, I've been in this space, as Carrie mentioned, essentially my whole career, both in real estate and sustainability and now ESG. And what I've seen is just the evolution of the industry. So whereas sustainability used to be, it used to feel like very tactical at the asset level, where you're doing, projects at the asset level, you're doing different initiatives that were really focused and not necessarily a concerted effort from the top. People are now kind of flipping that on its head. So they are taking that step back if they've had sustainability programs and saying, what are we doing, at a 30,000 foot level? Who are we as an organization? How does ESG, and not just the E, the environmental, but the S and G as well, the social and governance, play into who we are as an organization, what we're doing, where we're going to allocate our budget to, how we're going to invest our money and drive our sustainability program, and who we want to be. And so the folks who are just now getting on the bandwagon, starting up an ESG program, they're starting at that level, and they're looking at who they are, a 360 view of their shareholders, their peers, their customers, their employees, who they want to be, and putting together, a roadmap, if you will, via materiality assessment, to see, a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan and what they're actually trying to do. And then that can get pushed down to a tactical level at the actual assets when you want to move the needle through efficiency projects. So just a, commentary on how I've seen the industry shift personally, and why we're excited to be working with Shell and talk to you a bit today about the projects that they do. So let me flip to the next slide, or Chris, maybe you can flip for me. I'm not doing it. Thank you. And so this is an example. So as mentioned, Brendan's going to talk about the actual, the meat, if you will. So Shell, they're the ones actually doing stuff. What we're doing at Gobi is quantifying, tracking, communicating, and reporting. And this is just a sample screenshot of one of our reports that is, exciting for our customers, the Energy Conservation Measures Project Tracking. So as mentioned, these things are great. They have real meaningful impact at the asset level, but it's also important to be able to quantify and communicate them, not only to get credit from the standpoint of corporate social responsibility or investors or outward-facing PR type things, but also just so you know where to direct your money, right? Like which projects are impactful at which types of assets, and where do you get the most bang for your buck. So that is essentially what we help do. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brendan to talk about what is actually done and how to move the needle at the asset level. One other thing, actually, that I wanted to say, as we do work with a lot of customers who do third-party reporting, both voluntary and involuntary, regulatory reporting and voluntary reporting, some of those programs are about points and ranks and peer ranking and increasing scores. And a lot of folks have done, if you will, like the low-hanging fruit, and it's time to take things to the next level. And I think that is, from my understanding, a lot of why people tuned in today, is to hear what they can do once you're kind of done with that low-hanging fruit to keep moving the needle up and to the right with regards to your scores or your ESG reporting. So now for real, I will turn over to you, Brendan, and let you explain what you guys got going on.
All right. Thanks, Haley, and thanks to everybody for taking the time out of your schedules today, and I hope it's an insightful webinar. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about the Shell Energy Inside program. I'm going to start with a little blurb about why you're hearing this from Shell, go into some details on the program, walk through a case study that I think will be applicable to a lot of the folks on the line, and then, as Carrie had mentioned earlier, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So Shell is one of the most recognizable brands in the world. In fact, and I'm not even making this up, yesterday I was on the couch after work and my daughter came up and said, "Why are you wearing a fleece from a gas station?" You know, I had the emblem on my fleece, and I think most people know Shell from, you know, the place they fill up their gas tank. When I joined a few years ago, I was shocked by how much Shell does across all facets of the industry, and we are making a huge push into the renewable space to be a leader in the energy transition. And it's not lip service. We're investing a huge amount of money, a huge amount of resources into the new energy side of our business. We've made some public-facing aspirations as far as carbon neutrality. We've tied GHG emissions to executive comp to GHG emissions. And, you know, we're really committed at the highest level from our CEO on down to not just being part of the transition to a cleaner energy world, but leading that transition. And one of the things that we think is hugely valuable to Shell's customers is their ability to reduce their own emissions. And so that's really what the impetus for the Shell Energy Inside program was. It's really targeted at commercial, institutional, and industrial customers to help them do three things. Number one is reduce costs, both energy costs and operational costs. This is something that, you know, regardless of what industry you're in or where you're located, if we can come in and help a customer reduce costs, then, you know, they're going to be interested in those solutions. Next is on reliability of their energy system. So we work with a lot of customers that have, you know, 30-year-old HVAC systems, and they're spending a tremendous amount of money on maintenance. The systems are failing at all the wrong times. So what we can do with Shell Energy Inside, in addition to helping reduce costs, is upgrade that infrastructure so that from a reliability perspective, they know that on that 100-degree day in August, their tenants or their customers or their staff are going to be comfortable. And things like lighting, you know, the lights are going to be on, and they're going to be safe working conditions. And finally, sustainability, which is, of course, a big part of what Gobi's been helping us with. Sustainability is something that I think even a few years ago when we would talk with commercial and industrial customers, a lot of them, you know, it was a nice to have, but it wasn't really a priority. And we're really seeing that shift. You know, cost reduction is always going to be the biggest driver for most customers, but interestingly, sustainability is becoming, you know, sort of priority 1B if cost reduction is 1A. And I think we're going to continue to see that increasing as things go on here. So what is Shell Energy Inside? Well, it's really a suite of solutions designed to achieve those three objectives for our customers. We do that in a number of ways, and we have some great partnerships like that with Gobi to you know, leverage the best-in-class abilities of various companies. Our solutions are really custom made for our customers, but at the same time, we have some low-hanging fruit that we generally that we generally see. Lighting is something that if you haven't already replaced your lights to LEDs, there's typically an opportunity there to do that and do it in such a way that it's cash flow positive from day one. HVAC systems, as I mentioned, a lot of systems are old, 25, 30, 40 years old even, and this is a huge cost for a lot of our customers. And replacing those systems is going to have an efficiency benefit. There's going to be cost savings associated with it, but a lot of the driver there is just that the systems are failing and they can't continue to piece them together. Metering and controls is something that's really interesting. We don't like to go in and just rip out equipment and replace it. We like to help our customers use what they have most efficiently. And through our metering and control solution, we can do that, particularly on smaller commercial customers that don't have a building management system. And we're able to generate probably 10 to 20% savings just from helping optimize the control of their HVAC and lighting. For bigger customers that have a building management system, we can offer a sub-metering solution that gives them additional insight into the individual loads that are driving their energy consumption. And then on the right-hand side of the screen here, utility bill management and sustainability reporting are something that our customers are asking for increasingly, and we scoured the market and talked to a number of different players, and we're so impressed with what Gobi can do as far as not just capturing all the bills and doing that accurately and quickly, but all of the analytics that go with it. And I'll talk about how we use those Gobi capabilities both at the beginning of assessing an opportunity as well as at the end when reporting back to customers. And once again, a sustainability reporting is, if we're doing all these things for customers, if we're doing a lighting retrofit and replacing their HVAC systems and helping them participate in demand response programs through load control, we want to make sure that they're getting all those sustainability benefits from a marketing perspective as well. And that's really one of the ways that we leverage the Gobi system. So I'll talk to our approach here. We generally take what I think is a very logical approach, but it's one that a lot of companies don't particularly follow. The first is really just a proper assessment and make sure that we go in and have a solution that really works for the customers based on their needs, not shoving one particular technology or solution down their throats. We'll make recommendations, we'll implement those, and then leveraging the Gobi platform, optimize and report on those savings and sustainability goals. So one of the ways that we really try to build credibility and trust with our customers is to go in and really understand what's driving their energy costs, understand what their goals are related not just to energy, but also sustainability, and take a very data-driven approach to coming up with a solution set. And a lot of the time, the source of truth really is that utility bill. And one of the ways, in fact, one of the main drivers for partnering with Gobi is so that we can ingest all of those bills and actually understand a lot about the portfolio of a customer and really target in on which sites are going to have the biggest impact. So we use the Gobi platform for that. In addition, we've got some tools that we've developed in-house to prioritize the sites that we go after based on the energy spend or other characteristics of those sites. In some cases, we'll install some sub-metering to gain more information about a particular facility. And then once we have that information, we can get a lot more targeted on not just which loads we think could benefit from efficiency measures, but also which sites. A lot of our customers have a nationwide footprint. They've got hundreds, if not thousands, of sites across the country, and it's not realistic to do everything at once. So we really want to use whatever data we have available to us to hone in on which sites are the right ones to prioritize. So once we do that, we try to take a phased approach. Again, there's typically some low-hanging fruit. This particular example here is from an auto dealership that we've been working with on the East Coast. And it's just an example of sort of the approach we try to take instead of doing everything at once. There's often a benefit just to capturing information on the front end. So for this particular customer, we're putting in HVAC controls, which is going to immediately lower the energy spend, but also to give us a lot of information on their energy systems, or on the health of the HVAC systems specifically. This customer has dozens of HVAC units, all of which are, 25 plus years old. We don't like to go in and say, we looked at the age of the systems and they're 25 years and we got to replace them. If they're running well, we might be able to keep them going. If they're not, we can offer a replacement of those. So we really try to use that data to make sure that we're not just doing something that might not be in the customer's best interest. In this case, we're also going to tackle the exterior LED lighting. And then in phase 2, once we have all that information that we're capturing about the health of the HVAC systems, we'll start doing replacements of the critical ones, the ones that are, failing or about to fail. At that time, we're going to tackle the interior LED lighting as well. And then phase 3, which is really ongoing, is going to be, continuing to replace units as they fail, continuing to maintain the systems that we've put in for them, and then evaluating additional opportunities, solar storage, EV charging, those types of things that I'll get into. Those are the really kind of cool things that excite a lot of people, but at the same time, they aren't necessarily the right fit for a particular customer given the geography or the incentives in place. So we try to just work with the customer to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help them, reduce their costs. And then over time, as these technologies come down in cost, or there are additional incentives or market opportunities, we want to be there and be able to provide those services to them as well. So we structure the Shell Energy Inside program in such a way that it makes it easy for customers to implement these projects. So, the vast majority of customers we talk to understand that there are things they can do on their sites to make it more efficient and to lower costs, and they simply don't have time, and they don't necessarily have the capital budget to do that. So our solutions are fully turnkey. We handle all of the solution design, the engineering work, the vendor selection, make it as simple as possible and as sort of resource free as possible for our customers to implement. From a financial perspective, we can offer a number of different structures. The one that is preferred by most of our customers is sort of an energy efficiency as a service type agreement, whereby there's no upfront cost, and then a fixed monthly payment to cover everything, including the equipment, all the related services, the maintenance of those systems, and a guarantee on the performance of those systems. From an accounting perspective, we can structure it such that it's recognizable as an operating expense for our customers. There's flexibility here if that's not preferred by our customers, but in many cases there's a financial benefit to doing that. And one of the things too that differentiates our program from some of the others is from a typical way of upgrading your systems is that because we're providing all of the maintenance and because we're providing that guarantee on the function of the equipment, we're going to make sure that we're doing it right and that we're installing equipment that's not just the cheapest stuff out there. Reliability is huge for us, and we've got a reputation to uphold, and our goal is to have customers that are going to be lifelong customers for Shell Energy Inside. So on the back end, we've kind of done a lot of data and analysis to decide which solutions might be a good fit for customers. In order to keep customers happy, to let them know that they're actually saving money or achieving those sustainability objectives, and to be able to get them interested in additional solutions, reporting is so important. So this is another area where the relationship with Gobi is critical. As I mentioned at the beginning, the utility bill really is the source of truth, and having those bills is key to, on the front end, establishing a baseline against which you're measuring your progress, and then on the back end is actually looking at what has happened as a result of the energy management systems that we might have installed, the retrofits that we might have done. It's critical to report that back to customers in a way that is clear and simple, and that the folks who we're engaging with can report that to their management. And then if they want to take the next step and try to get various certifications, we can leverage the Gobi platform as well. So we absolutely like to report on as many projects as we've done for customers as frequently as they would like, giving them tools to sort of self-manage, but also really giving them a personalized touch, 24/7 customer support and dedicated account managers to make sure that the customers are getting the most from our solutions. So Shell New Energies has a wide range of capabilities. I've talked about what really makes up the core of Shell Energy Inside. But one of the things that makes Shell New Energies an exciting place to work is that we have through our own internal capabilities, through acquisitions, through partnerships, we've got just such a wide range of capabilities to provide energy solutions to customers. So we can provide solar, whether it's on a customer site or procuring solar through a power supply contract. Green power is something that is increasingly in demand for our customers, and oftentimes it's at an extremely competitive price. Whereas in the past there was typically always a great premium for green power. That's not necessarily the case anymore. Demand response through our subsidiary MP2 Energy. We're one of the national leaders in demand response, and that actually plays really nicely with some of the ways that we can enable flexibility with our customers through things like our HVAC and lighting controls, enables them to participate in ISO and utility demand response programs. EV charging infrastructure is something that, whether it's an office building for, wanting charging stations for its employees, or a commercial fleet of trucks. This is something that we're hearing from almost every customer we talk about. There's some demand for EV charging infrastructure. We've recently acquired a company called Green Lots that is a leader in EV charging software, and that's really been a great addition to the capabilities of Shell. Battery storage is something that, for the most part, we're doing projects in places like California and Ontario, based in large part on the market structure and incentives. But that's another thing that, as costs continue to come down, battery storage can be very useful, not just from a reliability perspective or a resiliency perspective, but also in helping our customers manage things like peak demand charges. So all told, Shell has right now, and I think is continuing to grow, what I believe is the largest and sort of most comprehensive set of solutions for commercial industrial customers. So I wanted to go into a case study here. A lot of our customers have older buildings, older energy systems, and it's pretty obvious where we can help them. If they've got old fluorescent lights, or if they've got HVAC systems from 1960, we can go in and make a pretty big impact. But from talking with Healy and some of the other folks at Gobi, I know that a lot of the Gobi customers are not that. They are energy efficiency and sustainability has been a priority for years. So I wanted to pull out a case study of a customer of ours that they're LEED Platinum certified. This is Green Street Academy. It's a charter school in West Baltimore. They won an award recently for the Green School of the Year and have done a complete gut rehab of their academic facilities, all new energy systems. So you might think we go into a prospective customer like this and they say, yeah, we've done everything, look. And the reality is they've done a lot that is fantastic, but just like when you get a new car or a new bike and you start using it and putting it through the paces, there are going to be problems that crop up. And they were experiencing some of these. So they had all new energy systems, but their building management system was not really commissioned properly. So they were getting a ton of complaints from students and teachers in the winter about cold classrooms. They bought a dozen space heaters to try to solve that problem. They had a lot of equipment that had been installed and was now out of warranty, and it hadn't necessarily been commissioned properly, and it had begun to fail. At the same time, these are their staff is very light as far as the maintenance staff goes, and they just didn't have time to go around and try to fix all of these systems and deal with multiple vendors. And then they're on a tight budget, as a lot of schools are, and the unpredictability of the facility maintenance expenses was leading to budget uncertainty that was just particularly problematic for them. So with Shell Energy Inside, they were able to actually transition full responsibility of all their energy systems to Shell for a lower and more predictable cost than if they had done it themselves. So GSA pays Shell a fixed monthly payment, and in exchange for that, we guarantee the performance, the function of all HVAC systems, lighting systems, and control systems. If there are any issues with those systems, if they don't perform up to the contractually stated levels, then that payment is reduced until we've had an opportunity to resolve those issues. Interestingly, from a cost savings perspective, we've modeled it out in collaboration with our customer as over the course of that 10-year agreement, a saving about 30% from what they would otherwise spend on all of the maintenance they might do themselves, on all of the repairs, replacements over time. So not just are we smoothing out the spend for the customers as far as eliminating those the volatility in the repair cost, but also on that we're actually saving them quite a bit of money. So for Green Street, we're doing preventative maintenance, recommissioning of the system, so sort of like a tune-up for your bike. Over time, things just start to fade and performance degrades, and there's a lot of repairs of parts. There are things that simply need to be adjusted along the way to keep those systems running properly and efficiently. And then in this case, there's quite a few rebates from Baltimore Gas and Electric that we've been able to get for them. So this I think it's just a really good example of how you can be on top of everything. You can be LEED certified and best in class, but if you don't continue to take care of your systems, you're going to run into problems. And most of our customers, like Green Street Academy, their business is not, or their core business is not taking care of energy systems. It's teaching students, and or if you're a healthcare facility, it's keeping patients happy, or commercial real estate is keeping your tenants happy and keeping the space comfortable for them. So Shell Energy Inside is a way to just transition all of that responsibility off to a different party and do it in a way that is often more cost effective than trying to manage it yourself. So that's the overview. I went through a lot of it fairly quickly, and would love to take questions from the audience. I think Carrie is going to sort of consolidate those and be the MC here. But yeah, I'd love to hear any questions that folks on the line might have.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brendan. We've got a few questions from the attendees. I'll run through those. First off, one attendee is wondering about utilizing their preferred vendors and contractors. Can Shell work with their preferred lighting and HVAC contractors to deploy projects?
Yep, absolutely. So it's a good question. So we've got a large network of contractors that we would use. But if a customer has an electrical contractor that they've worked with a long time, is familiar with the facilities, or someone that has come in and done some lighting upgrades at some of their facilities, we can absolutely work with those organizations. We can still provide the financing, the guarantee on that equipment, and basically take over that sort of vendor relationship. So it's actually something that probably about half the customers we work with do have a preferred vendor that they like to work with and that do know their facilities. And so we'll contract directly with them and still provide the same service to the customer.
Wonderful. I'm sure this is a question that you get often. Do you guarantee savings from your efficiency measures?
Interestingly, we don't. We guarantee that anything we provide is going to function properly. It's going to function to the level that we've agreed upon with the customer. We don't guarantee savings, and the reason is that there's a lot that is out of our control. And if a customer's operations change, if their utility rates change, there are always going to be disputes about the savings numbers and what's attributable to the equipment we've put in and what's attributable to other things. So we find that as long as we're providing the guarantee on the function of that equipment, and if we're willing to take a lower payment until we've resolved any issues with that equipment, that I think leads to a greater satisfaction from our customers, less contentious relationship as it relates to sort of validating energy savings. Now, that said, a lot of the things that we do, there are ways to estimate those savings quite accurately, and we'll do that, and that's part of the business case that we'll build with the customer, and then we'll report upon those. So if there are things where we thought we would be able to get a 10% savings figure and we're only getting 8%, we'll dig in and work with the customer to find out why that's the case.
That makes sense. You touched on this a bit, but what happens if the equipment you install breaks or doesn't work as promised?
Yep. So again, if that happens, there is a cure period that's specified in our contract. And that's, we have a certain period of time to fix that equipment. And if we don't, then the monthly payment is reduced proportional to the issue that has occurred. So it's just another way to sort of guarantee that what we've installed is going to work properly. And if it doesn't, then you're not going to pay. It's critical that if we say we're going to go in and we're going to put in all new systems, you're paying for us to do that and to make sure that it works. So we will provide that guarantee, and if it doesn't work, then you're not going to pay.
Wonderful. We've got one more question here. What is your typical contract term, and what happens at the end of the contract term?
Yeah, our contract terms are variable, so there's flexibility depending on what our customers want and what the technology is. For something like lighting, we typically see a 3 to 5 year term. Some of the bigger systems, like the heating cooling systems, might be 7 years, 10 years, something like that. But some of it depends on the preference of the customer as well. We can do longer term if they want to minimize the payments. We can do shorter term if that's a preference. So it really is flexible, and it varies based on the preference of the customer and the particular technology that we're installing.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Sign me up. I'm sold.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the
thing that I'll add too is that in working through various partners and partnerships, I know that oftentimes the end users get concerned of like there's two parties and now you have multiple throats to choke or hands to high five or whatever your flavor. But one thing I will say in working with these guys is it has been, and Brendan, you tell me if you disagree, it has felt and been seamless to the end user from a standpoint even of like paperwork, contracting, billing, just some of those things that get annoying when you're working with two partners. Like I feel like we've done a great job of sorting that out and just kind of making it an easy extension or just easy to work with both parties and get the benefits of the joint program without feeling the pain of working with two different providers.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a dedicated account manager for each of our customers. And we'll do a lot on the back end to make sure that it's seamless for them, that they know who to call if there are any issues. That's part of that's sort of a prerequisite if we're working with partners, is to make sure that it's simple and it comes across as one entity to our customers.
Agreed.
Yeah, those are good points. I think that's all from our questions ends. Are there any final thoughts from either of you, Healy or Brendan?
Not specifically. Appreciate you taking the time, everyone that joined, and Brendan, you taking the time, and just excited as these things go. Some partnerships are great, some partnerships work, some do or don't, but this one has been successful, and I think the end users have seen a lot of value in the ability to use both services. And the original slide that was up, a bit cheesy to say better together, but there really is, no other way to say it. It really does work. And yeah, unless you have any closing thoughts, we can let people have 18 minutes of their lives back to pine over election results or enjoy the weather.
Yeah, thanks so much to everybody for your time. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us.